Good evening, folks, or morning, I should say. It is 7 past midnight here in West County of New South Wales, Australia. Um, Last Sunday was training shoes on for a radio program, which we call Joshua Way. But after doing some research to see whether it's feasible to have the name, we discovered the name has already is being used legally. So for that reason, we need to change the name of our program so that we are not impinging upon anyone else's rights. So the name that came up as okay was Joshua Path. So the program is taking after Joshua, who became the leader of the Hebrew people in crossing the river into the Promised Land. He succeeded Moses. So he had the task of guiding the people in a foreign land. Just like we as Christians, we live in a foreign land waiting for our eternal reward. But along the way, we need to live here. But reading from Joshua 1, the context of Joshua's commission. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord spoke to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' assistant, saying, "My servant Moses is dead. Now proceed to cross the Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I am giving to them, to the Israelites. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given to you, as I promised to Moses. From the wilderness and the Lebanon as far as the great rivers, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, to the great sea in the west, shall be your territory. No one shall be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not fail you, or forsake you. Be strong and courageous, for you shall put this people in possession of the land that I have sworn to their ancestors to give them. Only be strong and very courageous. Be careful to act in accordance with the law that my servant Moses commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, so that you may be successful whatever you go. This book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth. You shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to act in accordance with all that it is written. For then you shall be successful. I hereby command you, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." That was the commission that the Lord had given Joshua to lead the Israelites across the River Jordan into an unknown territory. But the territory was prescribed and described that they shall belong to. So Joshua was the leader. He had to display and meet any obstacle that came against him, as we do in our journey, until we reach that final reward, the kingdom of God. That is our eternal blessed hope. So what we are going to be trying to do on the radio program is to present you with music that will help and comfort and guide you in your journey. That is my hope, and that is what I believe the Lord wants me to do. For years, I have been a person sitting at a barrier with a complete stranger coming up to me and asking me for direction. And with my knowledge of the area, I was able to direct that person where they needed to go, what street to walk on, where they need to turn, or how far they need to take the train trip, to which station to hop off. So my life has always been giving guidance to people in their journey. So I see music as the same way, giving guidance by musician, artists, presenting the gospel in songs. And there will be songs that we will play that don't seem to be Christian, but they are, because they are part of life. They are part of who we are in our journey. Let us never divorce Christianity from our physical life. It is part and parcel. We use Christianity to help us live our life in a relationship with God. So we will hear and listen to other musicians that we like. Slim Dusty comes to mind. Craig Woodward is a young country singer. Young Bradley, who's a rock singer. And there's few others that I know. Steve Beavers is a musician and a singer, but he's at present moment being God's servant in the centre of Australia in one of the churches as a minister. Doug McFarlane is another gospel singer who I will be presenting. and it's been an inspiration to my journey. And there are various other people that has assisted us along our journey. And to get an idea of them, of who they are, I mentioned Steve Beavers, Doug McFarlane, Hillsong Music, Chris Tomlin, Susan Boyle, Casting Crowns, Endless Praise, Esther King, Francine Bell, Harry Seacom, another friend of mine, Nathan Taskett, and John Williamson. I will play him as I have come to know him over the years through many engagements and concert, and sitting down with my wife having photo shoots, yes, up and close. And I will try new style of music, such as hip-hop by a Christian artist called Blinky D. I'm not afraid to present new style for those people that are out there. We do not need to stick to the traditional style of music that we currently aware of. We need to let go and let God inspire us through the diversity of the types of music that we may not have encountered before. I want to encourage you in your walk, in your journey with God. Encourage you as you participate with nature, with the environment. It's all part and parcel that God has given us, and we sometimes neglect it. Colin Buchanan is another singer that I came to know over the years. The categories of music is vast, and each have their own type. We do have the classical and art music tradition, the opera, the romantics, the broquette, then we have the folk, pop, blue, country, hip-hop, jazz, reggae, R&B, rock, alternative, metal, punk. All those styles Christians listen to be inspired, to be in tune closer to God. And that is what I'm hoping the session will do. And what I wrote the other day, as I reflected in my upbringing, which a lot of people don't realise, because I have not shared it all together. But here it is. This is what I wrote as part of a reflection. Joshua was the leader that guided Israel into the promised land and serving God in the land. I believe I've been called by God to Campsie. Not by choice, but by His will. By analysis of events, the acceptance of people, it all helped us in the journey. We all face hardship, and no one is prone not to experience hardship of life. Through music, it is my hope that it will form encouragement to the people in the valley. But life is not all hard. There are moments of excitement and blessing that God gives to all. What I bring is my music journey and how music helps shape my life. Secular music is part of that journey, and I believe it's not to be neglected, but cherished. My first music instrument was a melodica. Other names were blow organ or key harmonica. If I was to describe it, it had a mouthpiece that you blow into, but a piano that you played on. And you just press down on the keys to play the tune. I was given that as a gift when I was a primary age. Shortly afterwards, I learnt the recorder, and at the same time, drama entered my life in performing on stage production. I can remember a religious drama when I was at Burnside Presbyterian Homes. Yes, you heard me correct. I'm an institutional child. But I thank God for the life that I had. The production stage was Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel, where he put the statue up, which demonstrates periods of kingdoms that was yet to come. But down the bottom was a fiery furnace. The king made a decree, and there was these three Hebrew people who did not kneel to the king when he came out. So the soldiers rounded them up and bound them and put them into the fiery furnace. But when the king looked, all he could see, he saw 4 there, not 3. What a picture of the glory of God. Protection of his servants in the most diabolical situation. Situation that they themselves have not put themselves in. But they were obedient to God. So we had a stage production about that story. So it remains clear in my mind. Experiencing in music was separated, was suspended. My parents took us out of Burnside Children's Home. One September school holiday, and the regular social worker visited Mum and Dad and discovered that their children, my brother and I, were living there. So immediately we were taken into state care. That's a long story to go into, but we became state ward of New South Wales. But I thank God for that, because it gave me an experience in learning about God through prayer. But as I grew and moved on to high school, music became an elective subject for me. So I participated in music at Port Hacking High School. I joined the combined high school, and so at high school I was introduced to Broquette, classical and romantic type, during the 2 years for school certificate, 1970-71. In the Broquette type, I was introduced to Bach and Handel. For classical, it was Haydn, Mozart and Beethoven, while the Romantics were Strauss, Brahms and Tchaikovsky and Wagner. During this period of schooling, I took up playing the cornet with the Shire Brass Band and started to learn to play the piano from my Sunday school teacher. Why did I learn to play the piano? Well, when you're a member of the combined secondary school choir and you're a bass singer, I needed to know what the notes sounded like. So I was able to hear where the music was. There was a couple annual performances that I was part of as the choir. Mozart, The Marriage of Figaro, and Weber and Rice, Jesus Christ Superstar. There was a couple of the performances that I was involved with. But then I moved, once I left school, started an apprenticeship. I participated in the Handel's Messiah performance of radio station 2CH and the Radio Community Chess, the combined church choir. So I had the opportunity through both choirs to sing on the stage of the Sydney Town Hall and the Opera House. So I was involved in the world of arts. That's where my interests lied. But that wasn't over for me. I was attending the Kogarah Central Baptist Church as a young adult and started to have connection with other families. And as a boys' brigade officer, music was part of the program. So we had it incorporated part of the group program. The interesting part was a special dear lady that printed the church bulletin on the Gestetner. Her children was growing up, and long-term association with them. Just had a phone call with her the other day, and both her sons are very active in their interests. One's particularly active in music. In fact, this is where my interest in other types of music started abroad, into a rock group, school rock group I got involved in, with the guitar, lead, rhythm, bass, drums. It was a male school age rock group. And this was the late 70s, early 80s. And I also became involved with the bass guitar. I went to the learning studio at Rockdale to learn to play the electric bass guitar. So I learned to play it, but the problem was my interest wasn't strong enough to guide me and lead me, that I needed a career. So I became employed with the railways. So the problem with the railways is when you belong to the operational staff, you kind of like, you work shifts with only 7 or 11 hours off in between. And it wasn't to a regular roster, because whatever time you finished, and it was dependent on whether you were in Sydney at your home base or at the outlying depots of Goulburn, Lithgow and Port Waratah, Broadmeadow, where you had 7 hours off. And you kind of like, you only had time to eat and rest for your next job. So it was a very topsy-turvy role. I enjoyed it. I was able to do plenty of reading, which I thank God that I was able to take my cherished Christian book of Lewis, C.S. Lewis, or some other theological book, and read it. So I ended up getting involved with a school-age music group. And just before the blue light disco came onto scene, it was rattling through my head. The kids need something to do. There's nothing in the community for kids, high school, for kids that have just left high school and haven't got a career. They are floating. So as a keen Boys Brigade officer and a scout venture leader, my mind was attuned to the needs of providing them with an opportunity to come together and share in the music of life. So we organised regular music nights at a hall. So that was a good, worthwhile experience to have that I grew up. But interesting enough, my TV shows weren't the traditional things. I listened to Bandstand, Young Talentine, Countdown. So Donnie Sutherland and Molly Meldrum I grew up with. And so they were my main influences of music. So I've always had a fascination of music. The Holy Scripture mentions music, especially David, especially the worship part of music, to help us to be in tune with God. It's an expression of who we are and how we understand our relationship with God. So in the program, I need to change from Joshua Way to Joshua Path, so I do not trample on any toes unnecessary and be considerate, not to be confused with any other identity out there. So Joshua Path program will be on regularly on Tank FM 103.1 in the Kempsey Macleay Valley. 103.1 FM. It is available online to be listened as well from wherever you are around. It's a wonderful opportunity to be able to present myself to Tank FM to fill in a spot where they needed a replacement person for Christian music. To be, as a community radio station, it's there to serve the people of the valley. And both my wife and I, we have stepped forward to take up the challenge to represent the Christians of the valley. And today, I've heard feedback about the show. At first they did not know what it was about, but they gathered it was something Christian, but that was it. But in discussing with other Christian travellers in the community, I'm hearing about doors and windows being fractured. The glass is fractured. So I have a sense that the community needs healing amongst the believers. Not seen as opposition to one another, but unified in our diversity of how we worship God and express that. just because we carry denominational tags, that is not important. Because if I was to go according to the faith of my parents, I would find it very hard. My father was Presbyterian and my mother was Catholic. But if I go further into my family tree, and on one particular branch of the Thomas and Maria Davey, who is my great-great-grandparents that came from Suffolk, England, and settled in the Macleay Valley. When I look at the various marriages, birth records, death records, I see a multitude of religious traditions. The Methodists, the Church of England, the Baptists, Catholics. So my family tree here in Campsie represents, and still does, the Uniting, the Anglican, the Catholics, and Baptists, and Presbyterian. So within my own family relatives, we have a multitude of faith, diversity. So 1840, my great uncle Benjamin Davey, his daughter Alicia, married a Saul, married a McMorran, under the Baptist Rite in 1869. So when I look at my family, I see religion very prominent in the distance as compared to now. But I want to encourage people in their journey now. Family traditions do matter. And if they help you to focus on God, that is even better still. To know Jesus as Lord and Saviour. I don't care which denomination you worship at or fellowship at. I have a lot of friends that are from various denominational. I am studying a Bachelor of Theology, not through a denominational church, but through a state university, Charles Sturt University School of Theology. The lecturers primarily come from the St. Mark's National Theological Centre in Canberra, which is part of the Diocese of Canberra and Goulburn of the Anglican Church, and the Uniting Theological College, which is based at the former hospital that I had spent time at North Parramatta, which was Burnside back then. And Uniting Theological College is part of the Uniting Church in Australia. So I have lectures from both denominational, and there's other lecturers participating to present that course. So we have a number of activities that goes on in this community that we don't hear of. I would like to be able to share those activities so people are aware of. For instance, this coming Saturday night at Kempsey Baptist Church, we have a visiting musician artist in the name of Peter Christie. He is an international award-winning country gospel artist. And he's going to be at Kempsey Baptist Church from 7:30 this Saturday, the 15th of October. And you know even more is better? It's not going to cost you $15 or $35. But if you want to donate that, you can. All it is entry by donation. So Peter Christie is coming this Saturday night, to give a entertainment for the whole family. So if you're not doing anything, come along and have a good time. And on that note, I shall bid you good night.